Today I'd like to talk about a very famous incident in the Bible called the deception of Jacob, which is in chapter 27 of the book of Genesis. And it's one of the most intriguing stories in the Bible, one of the most famous in many ways. At the beginning of the chapter, we see that Isaac, his eyesight is failing him, and he's kind of thinking about, the end of his life and what's going to happen. So he calls in Esau, his oldest son, and he says, Esau, now why don't you go do some hunting? Esau was famous for hunting and getting some game, and get some game and make one of my favorite dishes for me. So Esau, good son that he is, kind of obeys that. And he says that, after you do that, I'm going to give you the blessing. So Esau was all like, wow, now I'm finally going to get the blessing. This is a good thing. Because Isaac really feels like, he's close to the end and this is a good time to do this. But lo and behold, Rebecca is eavesdropping on this conversation. So she is taking it all in. So Esau leaves. And immediately Rebecca says, Jacob, go get 2 of the choicest kids from the flock and bring it to me. I am going to prepare a special dish for your father. So he does that, and she prepares this very appetizing dish, and she wants Jacob to bring it to Isaac to get the blessing. So she's kind of coming up with her own plan here to kind of supersede what Isaac really wants to do. Now Jacob, when he finds about the plan, says, hey, wait a minute, we got a problem here. Esau is very hairy. I'm kind of smooth skinned, and what's going to happen is Isaac, Dad, he's going to get mad. When he finds out that this is what I'm doing, he's going to get really upset about this. So I don't think this is a good thing to do. Rebecca says, calm down, Jacob. Don't worry about it. I got the situation under control. I'm going to take care of this for you. So Rebecca, small woman that she is, after she gets the kid from Jacob from the flock and prepares this great dish, she decides that she will take some of the clothes of Esau and put them on Jacob. So she does that, and she also takes some of the skin from the kid she had cooked and puts that on the arms of Jacob, make him be a little bit hairy. And then Jacob comes with the clothes of Esau and the hair on his arms and all that good stuff, and brings the delicious food. And of course, Rebecca knows what Isaac likes, so this is a primo meal, a really great meal. And says that, here I am, I'm here for the blessing. But Isaac is a little bit perplexed by this. He says, well, how did this happen so quickly that you got the game so quickly? I just asked you now that we have this meal here, and I thought it would take you a while to get the game. And Jacob said, well, don't worry about it. God really helped me. Didn't say that Mom did this, God really helped me. So Isaac is still a little suspicious about this. So he says, well, why don't you come a little bit closer? So Isaac feels the hands and the arms of Jacob and says, these are definitely the hands of Esau. They're very hairy, but the voice is the voice of Jacob. He's a little confused. So Isaac eats the dish, and they bring him a little vino as well, his favorite wine. So he's enjoying this wonderful meal. So Isaac, still a little bit on the suspicious side, says, hey, why don't you come closer and give me a kiss? Jacob did this. Isaac smelt his clothes, and he knew that the clothes smelled like the clothes of Esau. So this kind of reassures him as well. Isaac then blessed Jacob and says, may all of your brothers bless you. And may they serve you. May they serve unto you. And may all of the nations pay you homage. And those who bless you, they're going to be blessed. But if anybody curses you, I pray that they be cursed. As soon as Isaac finished that blessing, and gave that beautiful, wonderful blessing to Jacob, we thought was Esau. Guess who comes in? Yes, right. Esau comes in with the game, and he's, preparing it for Isaac, and he's all excited, and he brings it into Isaac, and Isaac says, wait a minute, who are you? Oh, boy. Oh, goodness. When Esau told him who he was, Isaac said, well, I've already given the blessing, and I can't give it again. And Isaac is seized at that point with trembling. He's all upset. Esau begins to sob, really a sad scene. And he asked, well, please give me some sort of blessing. Give me something. But Isaac could only give him the blessing to serve his brother. And he says, you have to serve your brother, and eventually you're going to throw off the yoke from Jacob. So Esau gets very upset at this. Upset at this deception that had gone on. All upset that he's gotten this raw deal here. He says, you know what I'm going to do? When the time for mourning dad's death is finished, what I'm going to do is I am going to kill Jacob. And I'm just going to take over the whole situation. So Rebekah discovered what Esau was planning and says to Jacob, Jacob, this might be a good time to go to Laban, my brother, who lives in Iran, and we'll let the anger of Esau die down, because in time, this is what's going to happen. Esau is going to realize, hey, you're my brother, this thing happened, and it's okay. And he's not going to have this deep anger where he's going to want to kill you. So Rebekah's trying to plan for the future here. So Rebekah says, I'm going to let you know, Jacob, when the right time to come back is. I'm going to monitor the situation with Esau, and when the time is right, I'm going to send for you, and then you can come back, and we can all be together again. So how is Rebekah going to explain this to Jacob? I just gave the blessing to Jacob. Now, hey, Jacob's leaving. Well, I just gave him my blessing. Well, why is he leaving? Rebekah is smart. She tells Isaac that she is concerned that Jacob might marry a Canaanite woman, just like Esau did, that whole intermarriage thing. And what good would that be? What good would he be to her? And now they're both married to Canaanite women. That wouldn't be a good thing. So Isaac, oh yes, it's a good idea. We should go. So as we look back on this famous story of the deception, what do we learn from it? Well, first of all, we see the role of deception in the scriptures. We've seen this before. We saw it with Abraham when he said, Sarah is my sister. We saw it with Isaac when Isaac said, Rebekah is my sister. And now we see it with Rebekah engineering this deception of Isaac. So this is a theme that we see a lot, this deception theme. Now, we ask ourselves the question, well, how does God feel about this? this doesn't seem like a good thing. It seems like lying and cheating. And, what would God say about this type of situation, that there's deception going on? Well, it kind of shows that God can even work his plan through these different human situations. That sometimes things aren't really going the way they should go, but God works through them. God's promise is sometimes fulfilled in very strange and unusual ways. And sometimes we can see this in our own life when there is confusion or things seem to be going wrong, and yet ultimately we see God working in those situations that seem kind of crazy to us. See, how can God work when this is happening? But yet God does. So God can even use those unusual situations and work in them as well. We also see a big problem here of division in the family. There is a family favorite. Rebekah is favoring Jacob. Isaac is favoring Esau. It's division in the family, not a good thing, because it leads to anger, resentment to the point that Esau wants to kill his brother. Mother playing favorites, not a good thing. Father playing favorite, not a good thing, right? We should have equal regard for all, a good lesson to learn. And we also see the consequences of this deception. And you might say, well, the deception worked out well for Jacob, but it doesn't really, because the anger it engendered in Esau has consequences in the life of Jacob. So is deception ultimately a good thing or a bad thing? We see it not really being a great thing here, ultimately. We also see the importance of the father's blessing. These were patriarchal societies where the father played an important role. Certainly, fathers play an important role in families today, but more a sense of equality, right, between mother and father. But at this time, the father's blessing, very, very important. But as important as the father's blessing was and is in these cultures, see how the mother intervenes to override the father's blessing. Oh, that conflict there between the mother and father. And so, yeah, the father's blessing is important, but the mother, who, can work things out, kind of, has her way here in this situation. Also, again, the problem of intermarriage is brought out. Strong sense that you should marry within your group because of the religious traditions at this time of the other groups, right? They were afraid that this religious commitment, the God of Abraham, this would be diluted and the faith would become weaker. So the importance of marrying within the group and within the religion. And certainly we see here, ultimately, the importance of family. So important. And of course, we know what? We know that we are part of God's family. And we do know that the first one who said yes to God was Father Abraham. And Father Abraham had many friends. Many friends had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so were you. So let's all praise the Lord. Keep on praising the Lord, and don't deceive anyone.